Good night, St. James North, Reservoir Road, Clark's Road, Graves Road, Millionaire Road, Ashton Hall, the wider constituency of St. James North. Good night. Good night. It is a good night. Now, if you had told me a year ago that I would be speaking on a major party's political platform, I would have laughed. Politics was too nasty. And even if you speak facts, as is my custom, people would attack you. I wanted nothing to do with it at this level. It became increasingly difficult, however, for me to sit on the sidelines and pretend that all was well in Barbados. To watch people, because of fear, speak in hushed tones about what is going on in the country, warning you, be careful what you say and who you say it to. Even I, as I contemplated involvement, was strongly cautioned, be careful. You're a guy that likes to mind your own business. They will attack you. They will seek to kill your business. But I asked myself, as I thought about my children in particular, am I doing my part to help make Barbados a better place to be? Then there's my faith. As a believer in and follower of Jesus, I am required to seek the welfare of the country wherein I dwell. This land of ours, our economy, which is supposedly doing great, if you believe that assertion, while struggling to pay your bills, while struggling to put fuel in your vehicles. If you believe that assertion, this economy, they say, is doing great. But I put it to us that our society is not well. Our society, St. James North, is not well. We all have a part to play in helping to build a better Barbados, a better society, and making it a preferred place to be. We have different strengths. I can't do many of the things that you there can do. I know my limitations. I don't try to pretend to be something that I am not. There is one thing, however, that we all can do, and that is to vote. That is to vote. But can I tell you that that was the case up until January 19th, 2022. Voter turnout in the last general election, national average, was a mere 43%. 43, you heard me correctly. 57 out of every 100 persons didn't vote. Now, at first thought, you may think that they weren't interested. But national voter turnout average in the 7 prior elections between 91 and 2018 was roundabout or just over 60%. So what happened in 2022 to cause the turnout to drop so dramatically? The election was called on December 27th, 2021. Given a mere 23 days until election day, January 19th, 2022. It was called at the time of a surge in COVID. I know, I'm a practicing physician. I was seeing COVID positive patients. It was called at a time when a surge was to be expected and had already started. Let us understand that, Barbados. At the time elections were called, thousands of Barbadians were in isolation, at home and in facilities. Thousands. By 2 days after election, that number increased by 1,500. And by the following week, an additional 2,000 persons were in isolation, home and facilities. there would also have been hundreds to thousands who were recovering from the debilitating disease, meaning at least significant physical impact. I might have been afraid to leave home. Let that sink in, Reservoir Road, that at the time our Prime Minister called that election, thousands were legally barred from leaving their home under threat of significant penalty. Thousands were legally barred from leaving their home under threat of significant penalty on a day when they were legally entitled to have a say in our democracy by voting. Those were the actions. That was the action of our caring Prime Minister. And from then until now, I got a little bit more concerned, but I still didn't want to get involved because politics is nasty. I've seen it. I've heard it. But thousands were legally barred from leaving their home under threat of penalty to participate in something which they were legally entitled to do. At first glance, it would appear to be a conundrum of sorts. But how can this be? Other Caribbean countries held elections during COVID and others around the world and allowed persons who were COVID positive to vote. I'm not a lawyer, so I had to do some reading on this. I discovered that the right to vote is enshrined by provisions of the Representation of the People Act, which the Constitution mandates must make provision for every qualified voter to have a reasonable opportunity of voting in the general election. Did every qualified voter have a reasonable opportunity to vote in 2022? No, they did not. In fact, a senior official at the time said, if you have tested positive for COVID-19 and are in home isolation or quarantine, you cannot vote. Let that sink in, Reservoir Road. Let that sink in, Ashton Hall. Let that sink in, St. James North and the wider Barbados. Yet there's nothing in our Constitution or nothing in that Representation of the People Act that bars persons from voting or causes them to become ineligible because of COVID. In fact, it is further expressed, it is further enshrined in the Representation of the People's Act that states of emergency provide grounds on which the calling of elections can be postponed. Some say it was a brilliant political move on the part of the Prime Minister. I saw it then differently, and I still see it differently. A government that said it cares didn't see it fit for every qualified voter to have a chance to participate in our democracy. It was selfish, self-serving, and an abject abuse of power on the part of our Prime Minister. Consultations could easily have occurred with the Chief Medical Officer to put provisions in place. The elections were called 16 months before being constitutionally due, with a further 90 days. 16 months. Thousands of Barbadians, and let this sink in, thousands of Barbadians were knowingly disenfranchised. That is, they had their right to vote and participate in the political process deliberately stripped from them by the Prime Minister and the Barbados Labour Party, who supposedly care, and they must have known that that was going to be a consequence. They must have known. There is no right more fundamental in a democracy than the right to vote. Even more so than free speech, the right to vote and participate in that democracy. It was politically advantageous to her to do it, and she did it without regard for those being disenfranchised. Now, it is often said that Bajans have short memory. But Reservoir Road Ashton Hall, St. James North, you will not forget what the Barbados Labour Party did. Now, part of the rationale for calling that election at the time, well before it was constitutionally due, and at a time of a COVID surge, knowingly disenfranchising thousands, part of the rationale given was that we needed to unite as a country behind one leader. That there were difficult decisions to make. We have since seen many of those difficult decisions. The Holtown Civic Center, the land at Gemmett's Lane, BDF headquarters on the chopping block, Oystins, Gibbs Gully in this constituency. We have seen these difficult decisions where the views, the concerns of Barbadians is secondary to other interests. You may be asking, why should I vote? And I'm wearing this hat, which I like not so much as a party hat, which it is, but because on it, it says, value your vote. Why should I vote? What does any of what I said before have to do with my challenges, with my life right now? Does it make a difference? Aren't all politicians the same? I understand these legitimate concerns, and for a time, I thought this way as well. But then I realized that not voting is a form of voting that will influence the outcome. An outcome where you are more likely to have a representative that forgets their primary role is to represent you, the people, not their leader. Everything else is secondary, or at least it should be. Now, do we really believe, let's be frank here, do we really believe that the government's candidate will cross hairs with the Prime Minister and his party if a matter arises where the wishes, the concerns, the well-being of the constituents is at odds with government preferences? Do we really think he's going to do that and represent you, St. James North? We all know the answer is no. He will not. And the reason is simple. He and the lot of them are absolutely afraid of their leader. And I challenge any of them to take a lie detector test while saying otherwise. They're afraid. In fact, I would go further. They have decided that carrot is better than stick. $20,000 to $22,000 a month is better than being in the political wilderness or the Prime Minister's doghouse. And on many occasions have chosen to put party interests ahead of the interests of the constituents that they represent. Now, during canvassing, and I've had opportunity over the last couple of weeks to canvass on a number of occasions in the constituency, we were made of a situation where the former representative was approached by residents in a particular matter. And he had the unmitigated gall to inform them that he couldn't help them in that matter because he has a financial interest in it with the developer. Imagine that. We visited another constituent who was at their location for decades, only for in the last 3 years, a hotel be given permission during their construction to put their garbage dump right next to her house. Not 20 feet away, 50 feet away, I mean right next to her house. She would step out of her house, open the door. In fact, you don't even have to open the door. The stench was horrible. And on one occasion, it was mentioned that when the door was open, big rat flew out of the garbage into the house. This is the Barbados that we live in today, where big business and other interests, their concerns, take priority over the average man, who for many on that side lack pedigree, because they like talking about pedigree. We'll come back to that. Bloodline politics. We as constituents in this country seem to exist only for the purpose of empowering those that they believe have some divine bloodline right to ascend to office in parliament. There's a saying, and I particularly like it. When a man tells you who he is, believe him. When a person shows you who they are, believe him. This Barbados Labour Party has shown us who they are. Believe them. They have shown you St. James North, Reservoir Road. They have represented you. Sorry, I apologize. They have been your duly elected representatives, because that is very different from representing you. They have been the duly elected representatives for the past 34 years, 3 months, and 3 days. And now all of a sudden, on the eve of a by-election, they're running through the constituency, pretending to care about your concerns. Can I further add, let you know, that during those 34 plus years, they were in government for 21. A significant majority of that time, including the past 7 consecutively. They have shown you who they are. Yet in this very street and throughout this constituency, we can see roads that are in dire need of repair, dire need for street lighting. And all of a sudden, Minister of Transport and Works promising lights. Minister of Transport and Works promising fields for the children to play on, promising for roads to be fixed on. While letting you know, by the way, that we're any more special than anybody else. Within a priority, we have a government, we have to make sure we allocate resources reasonably, fairly. And that statement may be true, but 34 years, 21 in government, yet the state of the constituency is where it is, under their stewardship. They now have to do, or are now doing studies in Trent to help address the flooding down there. Their candidate says he was in the constituency for the past year. He had a head start. Not our words, their words. His words. He had a head start. A whole year, but yet only now realized their concerns for the constituency that he was courting. Only now realizing. Are we to believe that during that year, no constituents shared their concerns? No constituents said anything? Are we to believe that? Of course they did. But there was no election at the time. So why bother? And this is part of why people have little trust in politicians. They say that they will come and promise you the world, anything to get your vote. And within hours, their priorities, their concerns are different. You may get the occasional phone call wishing you happy birthday, but after that, see you in 5 years' time. Wow. I am a person that likes to be very careful with my words. I stand here tonight with a clear conscience, having observed Felicia Dujon for the past few years and gotten close to her in the past few weeks. I stand before you tonight with a clear conscience, knowing that I can recommend her to you to become your duly elected representative next Wednesday, May 21st. And I can do that because this is what representing people is what she has been doing. She didn't wake up one morning on the eve of by-election and decide to start representing people and do photo ops throughout the community. This is her life. The record is there. It is easy to prove it. We're not making this stuff up. She has been a tireless advocate for children, women, teachers, advocating for better plans, school plans for our children and teachers, represented women. And that's not only my word. Don't take only my word for it. She's just received a number of awards, has been an advisor to the British Embassy here in Barbados, to the OAS. I don't have to come out here and lie. I do not have to make up a curriculum vitae. This is who Felicia Dujon is. In fact, she's the only candidate in this election that has a clear record of representing people. She does not have to pretend. She does not have to pretend. It comes natural. She doesn't have to pretend to know how to play cricket. It comes natural. That is who Felicia Dujon is. And the record is there. It is clear. There is day and night difference as far as representation between the two main candidates. On the one hand, we have a candidate who, like the rest, afraid of the boss. You better fall in line. And on the other hand, we have a candidate who's not afraid of this government. Look at the number of things that we have heard that have been revealed to Barbadians since Honorable Ralph Thorne crossed the floor. We need stronger additional representation on behalf of the people of Barbados, the people of St. James North. We are guaranteed that electing the main opponent continues more of the same, where they continue to view you, St. James North, as an afterthought, a safe seat. We just have to go around at election time and promise them some roads and lighting and fields, and we're going to get their vote. And $300 in shirt, says someone. Well, this time around, they didn't wrap it in the shirt. This is what Felicia Dujon has been doing for years. As the DLP spokesperson on education, she has long been representing people. In fact, so much so that the government is afraid of her and will try to keep her out of schools. But she will continue to represent. You are guaranteed, St. James North, that when you elect her on Wednesday, May 21st, that she will represent you. When a matter arises, she will listen. And I can say that because that is what she has been doing. The record is there. She does not have to pretend. She will go to the relevant government department, and if needs be, will raise national attention on your concerns, St. James North. A vote for Felicia expands the opposition and would finally give you, St. James North, a voice in Parliament. Because what you had before, you can fill in the blanks. But it certainly was not a voice in Parliament. And on the point of voice in Parliament, we had to have a cybercrime bill, which the former representative, the current candidate, support. Now, many concerns were raised about sections 19 and 20 in particular of this cybercrime bill. But after a trip overseas to the Far East land, when the team came back, led by said former representative, those provisions, instead of reflecting the concerns of Barbadians, including those in Reservoir Road, Ashton Hall, St. James North, penalties, maximum penalties were increased from 7 years to 10, and from 70,000 to 100,000. From the government that cares. Now, if this is what care looks like, so I urge you, St. James North, next Wednesday, come out and vote. Your vote will make a difference. Every vote counts. 1-1 here, 1-1 there. I'm not going to repeat a statement as often said, 1-1 blow. But your 1-1 vote will count. Your 1-1 vote will show the Barbados Labour Party that they, nor any party for that matter, owns you or any of the people of St. James North. So value your vote and put your X where it counts. Make sure the pencil doesn't touch the line. Felicia Dujon. And you will be guaranteed to have someone who will represent you. I repeat, that is what she has done. She does not have to pretend. So pick up your phone. Those WhatsApp chats, those group chats, get the message out there. Let people know we do not have to fear. They lose their power when we lose our fear. Spread the message. Spread the word. Where you may say it makes no difference, it will make a difference. Because one way or the other, a message will be sent to the Barbados Labour Party. So come out and vote. Come out and vote St. James North. Come out and vote Reservoir Road. Come out and vote Ashton Hall. You have a clear choice before you. Someone who will represent you versus someone who will ensure more of the same. And Barbados, we cannot take more of the same. Our voice matters. Our vote matters. Our opinions matter. Our concerns matter. They are not our lords. There's one God in heaven above. They do not own us. The ones without pedigree. Your vote counts. You matter. Next Wednesday, May 21st, show out and vote for Felicia Dujon.